Hey everybody, welcome to the Super Bowl edition for the J&J Sports Express. Oh yeah, what a great week. We got JB Ellis at Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and you got me in my office at home talking football. So hey, we got extensive analysis of the Super Bowl this week. Of course, my co-host for the whole season has been JB Ellis. JB, how are you today?
Doing good. So right behind me, there's a great Super Bowl banner. Let's see if we can get it on camera real quick. That's one of the teams we're going to be talking about, the Kansas City Chiefs. See if we can find the Eagles banner somewhere as we walk around, as we do the show. So usually I do the show sitting in a desk chair. Today I'm walking around Radio Row because we made it to the pinnacle of the season. Eagles and Chiefs. Can it get any better than this?
Yeah, who the man? You the man? You the man? JB Ellis is the man at Radio Row. Super Bowl 59. Folks,
Thank you.
he's the
So
man.
here's the Pat McAfee set, guys, as we're walking by. You could see it. Sideline Sports right near them. Got CBS Sportsnet coming up. But this game's on Fox. They're here somewhere. Fox Sports, they're down further. But let's talk this game. I
Yeah,
mean,
this is
first of all, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions to start because it's only one game to analyze. So we can probably do that in 5 minutes. So we're gonna drag it out a little bit for the viewers. So before the season, did you think we'd have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
yes, I did. I actually spoke to a buddy of mine and we talk football every week. And we definitely said, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And so far, Kansas City is the best. And, everybody wants to talk a good game. I hear analysts talk all kinds of stuff all during the season. Until you beat Mahomes when the money matters, you can't. I don't care. MVPs, who cares? How many MVPs did Brady have? 2? So what? Big deal. How many rings does he have? That's the important thing. To me, it was Kansas City. I really honestly, we looked at the schedule before the season started, and I said, this team's winning 14 games, 13 games. I mean, even Vegas, come on. If you look at Vegas and say, oh, they're weaker, they're this and that. But I liked Kansas City. I liked Kansas City all the way. I really felt, honestly, I'm not saying that going now, but if you look at my analysis and everything, you got to be with Kansas City. Mahomes, man.
So
Did you? How did you feel?
I thought Buffalo was finally going to overtake them. I thought this was their year, and then they beat them in the regular season. And I said, you know what? This is the year finally. I was sold on it. And even though nobody had picked Buffalo all year and they lost Diggs, I said, this is finally their season. Real quick in the background, this is the Sirius booth. You can see Mad Dog doing his show back there with the red display, Mad Dog Sports Radio. But yeah, I thought that the Bills were actually finally going to do it. Before the season, I didn't think it was going to be the Bills. I kind of thought the Ravens had this year, with the addition of Henry. But I figured one of the two was going to definitely unseat the Chiefs. And boy, was I wrong. Patrick Mahomes does what Patrick Mahomes does. And that defense has become one of the best in the league. When you go back 5 years when this run first started, defense, what defense? They had none. Now this is one of the top-rated defenses under Spagnuolo in the league, and here they are in the third consecutive Super Bowl, 4 in 5 years, and a chance to be the only team to have a three-peat. Let's go to the
Well,
NFC.
I will tell you. Well, about Kansas
Yeah,
City, you mentioned about their defense. Their defense has taken a hit this season because the Kansas City defense last year was number 4 against the pass. This
right.
year, they're not number 4. They're 19th against the pass. They are vulnerable. Ladarius Sneed was one of their top cornerbacks in that secondary last year. He was like, it was almost like comparing him almost, I won't say completely, but almost to Darrell Revis. You couldn't get anything by him, but he moved to Tennessee. He's not there. You got guys that are capable, but the problem is that it's not the same. But they do, the funny thing is, teams will move up and down the field against Kansas City, but they can't score. They have problems scoring because that defense tightens up. And Steve Spagnuolo is going to show something different in the Super Bowl against Philly that they haven't seen on tape. They dialed it up differently against Buffalo in the playoff game. And that's why I said, you know what? Buffalo might win during the season, but they're not beating Kansas City during the playoffs. And this playoffs, you had Buffalo versus Baltimore. So they're going to cancel each other out. So Kansas City got almost like a extra bye because they had to play Houston. Houston wasn't beating, Kansas City. I'm sorry. I mean, if anybody out there thinks Houston was beating Kansas City in the playoffs, then they really don't know football. Because
So let's go to
I'm just want to say Baltimore playing Buffalo was perfect scenario for Kansas City because now they cancel each other out. Kansas City only has to play one of them. They move on. Okay.
so let's go to the NFC. Did you
NFC.
have the Eagles at the beginning of the year?
Nobody had the Eagles at the beginning of the year. They didn't know how the Saquon Barkley, situation was going to handle. Look, beginning of the season, Philadelphia's 2-2. They don't know what direction they're going. A lot of people think, it's going to be the Cowboys in the NFC East. Nobody really knew what was going to happen. And they just kind of went on a run from there. They really surprised a lot of people. They basically said, this is what we're going to do. We got Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, if anybody said he was going to rush for 2,000 yards, again, who knew? Nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And this is a big surprise. Yes, they're number 2 in rushing in the NFL, but they're 31 in the passing offense, which is something, who knew? Philadelphia, come on. Everybody was picking Detroit before the season. We were thinking Detroit was going to play in the Super Bowl. After their loss in this NFC Championship game at San Francisco last year, Dan Campbell was trying to dial it up. And it's a big shocker that they lost against Washington. And now their coaching staff is basically in shambles where guys have just jumped the ship. So, we'll see what happens in Detroit next year, how they dial up. They're going to have new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. So we'll see. But Philly, big shocker that they're in the Super Bowl. I knew, after they started getting things together, how deep they were going to go. Nobody knew. But here we are, Chiefs versus Eagles.
Yeah, I didn't expect the Eagles to be here. I would have bet money on Detroit. And if it wasn't Detroit, I would have said it would have to be San Francisco. But San Francisco had unbelievable injury problems this year and could never get over that hump. Detroit, they just had a horrible game at the worst time. And the Rams just outclassed them. And when it came down to it, unfortunately, for the Lions, it just was the bad day to have a bad game, and it was their season. And the Eagles did nothing except play well. They got Saquon, who was phenomenal for them. That offensive line was half the reason. You look at the Eagles' offensive line compared to the Giants' offensive line, it's a completely different animal. And that's why Saquon was able to get 2,000 yards. And he's done nothing but help lead that offense and take all the pressure off Jalen Hurts.
And one of the things I want to mention, you mentioned about the San Francisco 49ers. It's not about just injuries. There was a lot of squabbling in that team. There was a lot of, infighting, which it definitely can destroy the culture of the team. There were guys that came back from injury and they still didn't produce. That team was vulnerable the whole season, even when they were healthy. They didn't show what they showed last season. There were guys on that team. There are guys on San Francisco that are making a lot of money, and they didn't show up this season. So I think San Francisco really has to look at every position if they really want to move forward from this season of disappointment.
I completely agree. But now, the moment everyone's been waiting for, let's talk about our game coming up on Sunday, Super Bowl 59. Chiefs try to be the first team ever to have a three-peat versus the Eagles, who they beat 2 years ago in a rematch, adding Barkley. Do you want to start?
I'll let you take it from here, JB.
This is a tough game. Part of me, I have to take the fan out of myself when I talk about it, because the fan in me is tired of the Chiefs. But I have to remove myself when I make my pick, and I have to look at who the playoff and Super Bowl MVP is. Patrick Mahomes, once the the calendar flips to January, he finds a different level. He has been phenomenal in the playoffs. He doesn't really lose in the playoffs, except if it's to Joe Burrow or Tom Brady. And here we are, another Super Bowl, 4 in 5 years since he's been the starter. They have Pacheco, who's had a good year before he got hurt and came back doing really well. Side Kareem Hunt, when Pacheco went down, who did phenomenal, better than they would have expected. They got Xavier Worthy mid-year. They went ahead and traded for DeAndre Hopkins. Kelsey, who has been hit and miss all year, but when he's needed, steps up. That's their offense. Their defense, anchored by Chris Jones and Bolton, one of the top defenses in the league. Can they stop Barkley? I don't know if they could stop him, but I think they can contain him enough to get a win, especially when you have a close game and you have the guy with Mahomes on the background on the red jersey. On the other side of the ball, you got the Eagles, who have Jalen Hurts, who's been phenomenal. Barkley, who unfortunately can't win the MVP because he's a running back, but sure as heck should be in consideration. Who had a career year with over 2,000 yards. A.J. Brown, who when he gets the ball can do some things when they throw to him. Dallas Goedert, who's a really good tight end, but is not named Kelsey. And their defense is really good as well. But, when it's all said and done, how can you go against a guy named Patrick Mahomes when he's done nothing but win? And his 2 losses in the playoffs have been to Burrow and Brady. Last time I checked, Hurts starts with an H, not a B.
So you're going with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Well, I will do the analysis also before I give my pick. Philadelphia does have the number 1 total defense, and they have the 8th rushing defense and the 2nd passing defense. So we're talking about a team that's definitely improved. I think they are smarting from that loss 2 years ago against Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Barkley, yes, has given a spark to this team like no other. They are number 2 rushing in the NFL. Kansas City has to stop Barkley. You want to put it all on Jalen Hurts' shoulders because Kansas City is still very good against the pass. They stop. Listen, they'll let teams run up and down the field. There's no question that teams can gain yardage on this team. But getting in the end zone, that's the toughest part of any team. Kansas City is phenomenal at stopping teams from scoring points. You look at this season, teams, they gained yardage, but the scores, they score no points. Somehow Kansas City comes up with a play that they need when they need it most. Now, Steve Spagnuolo on the defensive side. I mean, come on. He's a guru. He dials it up. He's going to show looks that the Philadelphia Eagles have not seen on tape. That's what happened against Buffalo. That's why they won. You got to save your good stuff for when you need it most. This is the game they need it most. Philly, hey, look, they are great. They got to stop Mahomes. Mahomes is the key. But you remember, you look at the Kansas City offense, you've got a lot of guys that you could throw that ball to. In the last game against Buffalo, what did Kansas City do? They spread that ball around to 8 different receivers. That's the key there. You got Hollywood Brown. You got Xavier Worthy. You got Smith-Schuster. You got DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the man's like a glove. He doesn't drop anything. You got Travis Kelce that always seems to be open. You got Kareem Hunt out of the backfield. You got other guys as well behind that. I mean, any quarterback would love to have maybe 3 of those guys. You're lucky if you have 1 of those guys on your team. Mahomes has the unbelievable, great thing that he has all these guys to throw the ball to. It's amazing. He can look. Philadelphia has to be very careful who they cover and what they show because Mahomes is going to know what's coming. Okay? I see this game as being a very good game. I don't see a blowout by any team. I'd be shocked if any team blows out either team. But I have to tell you, as long as Mahomes is standing upright, you got to take the Chiefs. Lay that 1.5. I see them winning by 3 or more in this game. They're going for the 3-peat. I said it before. And let me tell you something, what I think is also going to happen. I've said this before. I've discussed it with other people. Travis Kelce, after this game, he retires. I see him retiring. Number one, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay, first ballot. He's got plenty of money. He's going to have 4 rings after this game. The man has nothing left to prove. He has nothing to prove. He is first ballot Hall of Fame. Say what you want about the guy. He's money. Okay? The man catches every ball when it's on the line. I see him retiring. And this week also, I just read today that Andy Reid is definitely going to be around for another season. I mean, he's getting up there too. But the thing is, when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you want to ride it out. You really want to see this ride out because he could possibly win. You know, he could maybe even be challenging Brady for rings because he's only 29. So we'll see what happens. But I got to tell you, I love the Chiefs here. Lay the 1.5. It's going to be a great game, but I think the Chiefs win by at least 3 to 7 points.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the sights of Radio Row. I've been walking around the whole time we've been doing the show, trying to show you some stuff. The guy who was being interviewed over there was Chris Sims, Phil Sims' son. Chris Sims is on NBC Sports, if you didn't know. You got to see some of the boots, some of the banners. You got to hear some great analysis by Jeff and myself. You can reach me and follow me at JB_ the program on X. You could also follow Sideline Sports at Sideline Sport 1 on all social media. We're on every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We won't be on tonight because we're out here on Radio Row. But go to sidelinesportsnet.com. And Jeff, where can people find you?
Well, my analysis for the Super Bowl is already up on my website at jeffcadillac.com, and I've already posted my best bet on Twitter, so you can figure out who that already is since I've already told you the analysis of the Super Bowl. So that right there and here, and hopefully everybody's watched this show the whole season, got some good analysis on some good games, and hopefully we'll see you back next season. But enjoy the Super Bowl.
See you back next September, everybody. Till then, make sure you go to jeffcadillac.com, sidelinesportsnet.com, and just be in touch with everything that's going on with both of us. Have a great night, guys, and enjoy the Super Bowl.